I was involved in a conference where we had Megan from Nigeria, but she talked about how she had to carry her son for 2 miles on her back. And this wasn't an infant, this was like a teenager because he couldn't walk. And that's really sparked me. And the fact that we could really all come together, we're one global bleeding disorders family.
Welcome to Boundless B, the Hemophilia B podcast, the podcast standing with you from a family like yours, presented by the Coalition for Hemophilia B and in partnership with Balancing Life's Issues. Today, we're joined by Debbie De La Riva and Cindy Komar from Save One Life, a powerful organization bringing hope, dignity, and direct support to people with bleeding disorders in underserved countries around the world. From scholarships and enterprise, grants to vital medication and mentorship, Save One Life is creating change that doesn't stop at treatment and empowers futures. Thank you so much for being here with us. Debbie, do you want to kick it off and just kind of explain who you are and your role within this organization?
Definitely, because Cindy Komar, I'm the ambassador program coordinator for Save One Life. And Cindy, you might want to introduce yourself as the big cheese.
Sure. Thanks so much for having us today. I appreciate it. My name is Cindy Komar. I'm the executive director at Save One Life. I got involved, about 6-7 years ago. But I have been a fan of Save One Life since my son with hemophilia was born 22 years ago.
Gotcha. So I guess talk to us about the Save One Life organization, its founding, and kind of where it's at today.
Save One Life was started in 2001 by Lori Kelly, and Lori was asked to go to Dominican Republic to talk about leadership and advocacy, and that's when she first experienced the issues with regard to developing countries, that there's no treatment, that people with hemophilia are living a life of severe pain, crippled, inability to really work, really in systemic poverty. And so that's when she started thinking, we have to do something, we have to help. And so she started first Project Share, which is part of Save One Life. And Project Share is a humanitarian aid providing donated medication to those in need in developing countries because they had no medication. And those are from donations in the United States. And then through the course of doing further training, she went to Pakistan. And in Pakistan is when she encountered, again, the same situation, different country, but developing countries have very similar issues in terms of no treatment, no access to treatment, difficulty to get education, living in just crushing poverty. And so in Pakistan, she met a father who said, if I could just have $20 a month, I would be able to send my child to get an education, to get out of the systemic poverty. Because basically, if you don't have an education, you are forced into manual labor, and that's what you can do. But because you have hemophilia and you haven't had any treatment, you're crippled and having difficulty being able to do any kind of manual labor. Should that put you in this cycle you can't get out of? So by being able to provide an opportunity to get education, it was a way to kind of get out of that poverty. And so with that, Lori Kelly said, let's do something. Let's start this. And so she started Save One Life.
Wow. So that was kind of the spark of its creation. Before I pass it over to you, Debbie, I guess, Cindy, maybe just kind of tell us where we're at today in terms of the landscape and like kind of the work Save One Life has been able to do.
Today, Save One Life has over 2,500 individuals that has been helped to really create a better life for themselves and their family. We've worked in 18 different countries and really provided that assistance. And we hear stories all the time from them. And it just warms our heart to hear those stories that Save One Life has made a difference. So many of the kids started in our sponsorship program, which is where we provide sponsorships to children, one-on-one sponsorships to help them directly. So we provide direct financial assistance through our program partner, which is a local chapter, to that family, to that individual. So if someone donates, the money goes directly to that person, that child. And so a lot of those have gone through that sponsorship program and then gone through our scholarship program, where as young adults have been able to continue their education and to really, like I mentioned, get out of that cycle of poverty by being educated and be able to get good jobs. And that's a scholarship program that we do. And then we also do grants for families, a lot of single moms trying to create new businesses and start. So really, we've seen Save One Life is at its 25th anniversary in 2026. So we've seen a lot of changes over the years, and we're very excited to all that has happened for those individuals that we've supported, and really all of you have supported in making this happen.
Yeah, yeah. And I didn't want to brush over, you did mention earlier in the podcast that you have a son with hemophilia. Can you tell us about them?
Sure. I have a son. His name is Cade, and he is 22 years old, and he was born with severe hemophilia A. And yeah, he's doing great. He's in college and finishing up, but it was as most people, it was a very scary start to his life with that journey and trying to figure out how to get him the treatment and what he needs. And I will say that I went to Lori. I heard Lori Kelly speak when my son was an infant, and it really gave me hope that, oh my gosh, we do have access to this medication. He's going to be okay. We're just going to work through this. And really seeing people in other countries not so fortunate really resonated with me and made me feel like, all right, we can make this work. And my son's been very fortunate to live on really a life where he's been able to do a lot of things.
Yeah, and I think it's also a reminder of how the Coalition for Hemophilia B, the work we do, has ripple effects, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it gives people hope and makes people feel like they're capable, and that this is not it does not define who you are. It's just a part of who you are. And I think that's a very important delineation.
Yeah. Well, Debbie, I was going to throw it over to you now, because if we just got the macro view, right? Tell us about the program work you do globally.
Definitely. At first, I'd like to concur with Cindy. That's when I received the news too by listening to Lori Kelly and seeing the horrific pictures of children, with just cantaloupe with enlarged joints and just excessive bleeding. And I too, like Cindy, have a son who's now 31 with severe hemophilia, and I couldn't imagine what that would be like. The helplessness a parent would feel, not being able to help them. And so that's when I got involved too. I've been sponsoring 3 children for the past 10 years. And then to bring you up to date, what I get to do now for a living is to identify people around the country that feel just as passionate about making a significant change in somebody's life. And so we have a program that's called the Ambassador Program. And just as of last month at the Bleeding Disorder Conference, we trained 6 ambassadors that are now going to go out and tell the stories and get people involved passionately, and equally important, to help people understand how they can help. Because I think, Kai, that's the biggest problem. People can see this term that only 25% of the people in the world receive adequate factor. And they could know, well, we've identified about 400,000, so that's about 300,000 people who are living day to day without the medication that they need. And so number one is with the awareness of really what the situation is, through storytelling, bring it to life, and then letting people know you can help by sponsoring a child for $35 a month.
Wow. Yeah. Oh no, tell us more about the sponsorship program.
Certainly. Through their sponsorships, and like Cindy said, we sponsored over 2,500 children throughout the life of this organization. And what it does, it really does help pay for those extra expenses that would get involved with somebody's ability to even get to a hemophilia treatment center. Sometimes they have to travel for hours with inadequate transportation. And so, or sometimes it's to help them go to school with school supplies. And that $35 makes a difference between having, a life that is more manageable. It improves the quality of life.
Yeah, and I guess from your guys' perspective, like, why does that, it's like direct approach, right? Like one-to-one. Why does that matter so much? Does that make your organization unique in that sense?
Yes, I would say it does make our organization unique, because we provide through all the donations directly. So you can go on the website and actually choose a child, and that's the child you are definitely connected to. And then the funds go through that program partner I mentioned, that local chapter, directly to that child and family. So what you're donating is making a direct impact to those families. When Lori Kelly started the organization, she picked the name Save One Life from Schindler's List because in there he had said, if you save one life, you save the world, and really wanted to focus on one child at a time. And that's how Save One Life, the name, was born from that.
Wonderful, wonderful. And yeah, I guess, the education piece, right, is so important, like just making people more aware of what they're living with or making people aware of what others are living with, right? I'm not somebody who has hemophilia or is connected to someone who has it, but I'm now connected to all of you, right? Through this beautiful organization. And I think maybe, are there any stories that are leaping out of maybe a child or a family who has had a positive impact via Save One Life?
I can tell you a story that I just shared yesterday, actually, with the staff. We heard from a young gentleman in India who wanted to share with us that he just got his accounting degree and that he has severe hemophilia. He was in our sponsorship program and then his scholarship program to be able to get the education. And now he's actually working at the chapter in India to help with Save One Life, to help those. So he said, I'm doing this because I want to return all the assistance and help that I got. But we see this time and time again, individuals who started in our sponsorship program and able to really better their lives. And now they are able to get those degrees, which help them to lead more productive lives, despite the fact that they've had multiple bleeds, no medication when they were young, and all those complications that come with that.
Yeah.
And then another story about Project Share I'll just mention is we had a young mother whose son had a brain bleed and didn't know what it was because a lot of times you don't have local hematologists that understand hemophilia at all. And so really he was not doing well. And finally she connected with the local chapter who connected through us to donate medication. And because of the donated medication, they were able to give that to him. And now he's 7 years old and doing very well and able to just go to school and do the same things that we try to do in this country. So I think that Project Share made a huge difference, I think, really, truly between life and death. And then one other short story I'll share as a gentleman we had in Fiji. There's no medication there, and we were able to get medication to him as well. And then a fourth one on the grants I'll mention is one of our program partners mentioned to us that a young mother, we had provided assistance by providing computer equipment for her to do a business. She was in a very remote area, and our program partner went to visit her a year and a half later, and it's like a night and day. The woman was shy and sort of seemed very insecure and didn't talk much at the first encounter. And the second one, she was running the business, doing very well. She had a lot of self-confidence. And so it's not just the financial component, it's really helping them feel like a more fulfilled life, more self-confidence, feel like someone cares about them, someone really believed in them. And I think that's really significant as well. And one other thing I'll mention is we have a lot of single moms because in a lot of these countries, the husbands may leave because they feel like the child is cursed or the mom is cursed. The women are ostracized from the community because they're viewed as cursed. And so these women are left to try to raise children on their own without really any support and help. So being able to provide these grants is really life-changing for them to provide for their family. And then obviously in conjunction with that, the sponsorship program allowing the child to also thrive and be able to get out of that systemic poverty.
There's a few things I heard in there. There's this idea of community, not only helping you financially or just pragmatically with medication, right? But it's that confidence. It's that ability, that the mental health aspect of this, right? Which is such a huge piece to navigate, whether you're the mother who's scared because they have the child or you're a friend, or if you have it yourself. We know in the coalition, like there's so much talk about the mental health component of living with or living with someone who has this, right? So just the support, that net, like just having that net there is providing so much relief beyond just, medication and financial. So it's wonderful to hear. And I think the other piece I was hearing is when you give back, right? So I've received and now I'm giving back. And I think that's really the coalition, like help our members give. But then let's talk about that advocacy piece, because there are going to be a lot of changes coming over the next couple of years, and things will probably get more difficult for a lot of people. So now is a time to come together as a community. And I guess maybe Debbie, start with you. Just talk to us about advocacy, and maybe there's a different word, but the stigma behind it, and what was the fire that led you down this path that maybe a parent out there could hear and be like, hey, maybe a small step in that direction could have a huge impact.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, whenever you are acting in an altruistic way, it is such a win-win mindset, because the person in the United States can deal with their own feelings of, we all sometimes feel overwhelmed by living with this condition and feel helpless to affect any type of change. And so for the person giving from the United States, from anyone listening from the Coalition B, you have a direct avenue to feel more empowered, feel more powerful by empowering someone in somewhere else in the United States. And then that particular person now feels heard and seen. And it's just a cumulative effect, like you talked about you talked about recently. And so it's the importance of being there for other people. And as you said, right now, we get to have an avenue to change somebody's life and help us. It's the thing that we have control over. It's how we spend our time, money, and resources. So advocacy is definitely a win-win for both people.
Yeah. Debbie, Cindy, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
I think, Debbie, that was very well said. Kind of to share how I got involved and what was a spark for me is I actually, I heard Lori speak that I mentioned already, but I was involved in a conference where we had Megan from Nigeria come. And this is when I was working at the Arizona Hemophilia Association doing something different. But she talked about how she had to carry her son for 2 miles on her back. And this wasn't an infant. This was like a teenager because he couldn't walk. And that's really sparked me. And the fact that we could really all come together. We're one global bleeding disorders family. And I feel like we can't help everyone, but we can help our own blood brothers and blood sisters. And so I, like to Debbie's point, I think that altruism makes you feel like I can do something about this. I can help someone help themselves. And I think that's powerful for us, and I think it's powerful for them. And in this world of uncertainty, I think that is certain. I think that the funds that you provide and the assistance you provide to support those individuals that really need it within our bleeding disorders family, I do make a huge difference for them.
Yeah. Well, it's an incredible vision, and obviously you guys are having such a huge impact on so many people. So I guess talk to us about what's coming up next. Like, what's giving you hope in the foundation and other initiatives? Like, just talk to us a little bit about the future.
Well, Debbie, if you want to start with the ambassador program that you kind of mentioned already, but that's something new, and we're really excited about it because it allows us to spread our message even further. So, Debbie, if you want to touch on that again.
Oh, definitely. So there's so much excitement because there's some synergy now, and now we have the stories of strife and success, and now we empowered other individuals to go and just tell the stories and tell people specifically how they can help. It's just I can see it's going to grow and grow, and pretty soon we're going to have so many people not just going to bleeding disorder conferences, which is extremely important, to reach out to our community. So as Cindy said, that they can reach out and figure out how to help their global family members. But everybody has a circle of influence too. And so these individuals will talk to people where they work or organizations they belong to. And so I can see that this is going to mushroom into a real sustainable system.
Yeah.
And so we can always know that, the ideas are going to be spread.
Yeah.
And people figure out how to help.
That's great. Well, I guess tell our listeners where can they get in touch with you? Like website, or go through that with us.
Sure, they can get in touch with us by going to saveonelife.net to our website and just learn more about the different programs we provide and how they want to get involved. We also have committees. I mentioned the grants and I mentioned the scholarships. We have a committee that decides, they have to apply for those scholarships and for those grants. And then we have a committee that decides if they're approved or not. And I think that's a really interesting way to get involved and and learn more about what's going on globally. And then also to, like we mentioned, the $35 a month sponsorship if you want to get involved in the ambassador program. And next year's our 25th anniversary. So we're really excited, and we're looking forward to doing a couple of celebrations next year, and excited to share those with you once we have those all planned. Yeah, so please come to the website and learn more about the organization.
What I would add is this, is that Save One Life is really providing an opportunity for us to be good humans, for us to take the time to notice somebody around the world that's experiencing strife. Mm-hmm. To go back to something you asked me earlier, what are some other stories? Well, at the MBDC, I got to stand with a woman who was very much into her strife, knowing that she's hearing about all of these wonderful medications, but yet, feeling the burden that she's not going to be able to bring this home to her son. And just by having a 10-minute conversation with her where she felt seen and heard, I could see that the hope in her eyes that, somebody does care about me and somebody's going to do something to make a difference.
Yeah. Well, beautifully said. And thank you so much to you, Debbie and Cindy, for sharing your time and your stories today. At the Coalition for Hemophilia B, we know that community doesn't stop at the state or, country borders. This is a global thing. And the work you guys are doing is just wonderful. So just a powerful reminder that no act of compassion is ever too small, and that together we're all changing lives. Again, go to saveonelife.net to connect to this organization. And thank you again for your time, Cindy.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you so much for being here, Debbie.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
All right. This has been Boundless B, the Hemophilia B podcast, the podcast standing with you from a family like yours, presented by the Coalition for Hemophilia B and in partnership with Balancing Life's Issues. Until next time, everybody, take care. Thank you for listening to Boundless B, the Hemophilia B podcast, the podcast standing with you from a family like yours, presented by the Coalition for Hemophilia B and in partnership with Balancing Life's Issues. Produced by me, Kai. Got an idea for the show? Send us an email at podcast@hemob.org, and don't forget to stay connected to your community at hemob.org. Anything else to add, Miles?
Yeah.